Hey everybody, it's the Trout and welcome to another episode of the Trout Show. Thank you so much for stopping by. You know, when you think about the capital of country music in America, you think of Nashville, Tennessee. But I bet you don't think about Australia as being the country with a lot of country artists in it. Well, maybe you know one, and his name is Keith Urban, and Keith's done pretty doggone well in America. Well, today, my episode features another fantastic country artist out of Australia. His name is Andy Penkow. Now, he may not be a name that you think you know, but he's going to be well known in America because he's been on fire basically in Australia. He's had several big hits down there, and he now continues to grow his fan base here in America and also Australia, where everybody knows who he is, and also in Canada. Andy was kind enough to sit down with me recently to talk about his career in Australia and how he's going to try to make it big over here in America, and I think he will. And the fact that he's coming up back to America in October to perform at the Texas International Country Music Awards in Marshall, Texas, which is a unique place to have awards, but that's a completely different story. So Andy sat down, told me about his life, and the fact that he's making his way as an independent artist in the country music field. I thought it was very interesting, and I hope you do too. So sit back, get yourself an adult beverage, relax, and watch this episode or listen to this episode with the great Australian country artist Andy Penkow. That's next on The Trout Show. So the thing about it is, for me, Andy, is why country music? I mean, it's not that Australia is known for a lot of we all know about him up here and all that good stuff, and people know great artists that's come out of Australia. Most people remember, if they're old enough, they know who Men at Work is. That's about, what's that? If you're not that old, you'll think Keith Urban. Oh, Keith Urban. Oh, yeah, I know who he is. But what was the impetus for you to start playing that when you first started playing?
Yeah, it's a great question. For me, country music is something that's been around in my family for a long time. My grandfather used to drive trucks for a living, and he used to play a lot of country music. So we were exposed to a lot of it as kids. Right. And then that kind of filtered down to my mother, who used to play a lot of 90s country around the house when I was a kid. So it kind of stuck with me. I think that's where I got the love for country. However, my grandmother was a professional opera singer back in Australia. So they wanted me to go down that path. But unfortunately, I didn't.
Big difference there, isn't there?
A lot of discipline. And I really didn't have the mindset to really train. And I did start doing a little bit of it, but it just wasn't for me. So we stuck on the country route. But I think the cool thing about what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do is I really love all different genres of music, So I'm not the quintessential country singer, like I'm really kind of making it my own and using my stories and things that have happened to me and writing country songs, but presenting them as my own style, if that makes any sense.
Well, it does. But, I think the thing about it is, and I know several people in Nashville, I think the music out of Nashville is completely different than it was 20 years ago. There's a saying, I'm a rock blues guy. I played that for my whole life, but they always said country music is about 10 years behind rock music. And now rock is like the same as it's always been. And it's true because it's got more of an edge to it. And that changed it. So I think what you're doing is kind of a blend. And that's what I hear more out of Nashville anyway. There's very few people that do the old country style,
Yep.
And but then you have, and I had the privilege of meeting him just recently, Lyle Lovett type people out of Texas that do, it's country, but it's more laid back country. And then we have the aforementioned Keith Urban, who is a great guitar player, plays more of a, upbeat country style music.
Yes.
But so you listen to country music. Do you remember what your grandpa played? Do you remember what was his favorite? Like, would you be in the truck with him, or what did he listen to? What did you listen to?
Well, lots of Australiana country stuff. So we listened to a lot of Slim Dusty. I don't know if you probably would have heard of Slim. He's basically the really Willie Nelson of Australian country music. Right. He's been around, or he's actually passed on now, but he really got the ball rolling when it came to getting out into the regional areas in Australia and presenting country music to the Indigenous. And really building a career out of traveling around Australia playing country music. And a lot of people follow what he done. So I've got all my grandfather's old records, which is really cool. He's passed on now, but I've got all the Slim Dusty records and that kind of stuff. So, but my mum used to listen to a lot of Casey Chambers as a kid, which is another Australian artist. Very interesting artist because her voice is very unusual. And for me, I really resonated to it. I thought that was something that I really resonated to. So lots of Australian music, but on the other hand, my mum listened to lots of Dolly Parton, Shania Twain, Alan Jackson. So I feel like and it's so different to the Australian stuff. It's a different world.
Well, you got cultural differences. I think that's the big thing right there.
Yeah.
But so here's a question. Guitar player first or songwriter first, or both at the same time?
So I actually started singing before I did any of them. And then songwriting, and then I moved over as a guitarist. So I've been singing and annoying everyone around my house since I was very young. So that was still do. That was something that I've done for, I started doing when I was really young. And I think I was probably about 10 or 11 when they realized that, I may have some kind of talent here. So that's where we started pursuing it. So I've been doing it for a long time, but, I've also done a whole different bunch of style of music, which kind of led me to learning to play guitar and all that kind of stuff later on.
When you were younger, who were the people that you were kind of like, oh, I want to sing like them? I obviously mentioned Shania Twain but what was the kind of male performers that you listened to? And it may not have been out of Nashville, but maybe been out of Australia, but what was the ones that you go, oh yeah, I like those people when you just started?
Yeah, so many different kind of artists. Neil Young was one that I really loved as a kid, and hence the connection to Canada. I also really loved some Australian artists as well. Obviously, Keith. Keith's been around for a very long time. Keith was knocking about in Australia long before he was Keith Urban doing what I'm doing. So he was one that kind of used to pop up a fair bit. Slim Dusty is someone that I used to listen to a lot as well, thanks to my grandfather. But lots of 90s rock, Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20 is someone that I listen to.
Yeah, great voice.
Great voice, very talented guy. And I feel like I'm kind of influenced by a lot of stuff that he's done as well over the years. And lots of, some female artists as well. Shania was someone that really I was interested in because it was such a different sound. She's a country artist, but she's singing these big contemporary songs that are making it number one on the contemporary chart. So as a young kid looking in on that, you kind of think, well, I could do that. I could sing a contemporary song that goes number one in the country charts and vice versa. And I really think she planted the seeds for a lot of people in this contemporary world that we live in of country music.
When did you, so as you grew up, you're starting to play, did you, and I've talked to people all over the world, everybody kind of goes through the same thing. Were you playing with your mates? Did you start on your own and say, hey, get a little band together and say, let's kind of perform? How did that all come about? Or did you say, I'm going to do this on my own?
It's funny. My brother and my brother's like a 10 times better guitarist than I'll he started playing guitar a lot longer before me. And I was always the singer. So I'd always be singing and he'd be doing the backup. Well, kind of like this little family band. We used to, bring our mates over and we'd set up our garage with the drummer and my brother playing guitar, me singing, another one of our friends playing bass. It was probably pretty bad. And our poor neighbors, I felt terrible for. But my mum was super supportive, even though it sounded terrible. She let us kind of explore our artistic creations, which was cool. And then, moving into going to school and stuff like that, I worked in a different bunch of bands, even going through uni, I sung in a rock band, but I also felt like I'd always wanted to do this solo thing because I've got this huge love of writing songs and telling stories in my own way. And that's really important to me. I've got to the point in my career where I think some of the best shows I've ever done are just me sitting on a stool in front of 200 or 300 people telling my stories and watch everybody engage and understand what you're trying to tell them. That's where I've kind of got to solo wise.
It's funny as a performer myself, we strive, I dream of playing in front of 16,000 people in an auditorium.
Yes.
But I admire people that, and I know some that have done it, that come out just like you, sit on a stool and is very intimate, where you sit there and play, and people, they both have their advantages.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're doing that, and I've always been an admirer of people that can hold people's attention by just playing a guitar and singing. You know, there's a lot of people that I've interviewed, or some that go in and sing, but they're just kind of background music. And,
Yes.
you know what I'm talking. I'm sure you've done that a few times too.
We've been down that road many times. Yeah.
But if you go in and sit there and people turn around and watch you, you know, especially if it's a place that's what they're there for, that's a big deal. I mean, that really is. And I think it really cements yourself as a performer, because you can't hide behind anything. You know, you can't hide behind the band. You know, you got the mic stand and a guitar, and it's like, that's it. And the guitar can give you a little bit, you know, protection, but that's not much. So,
No.
and when people could do that, I admire them, because I grew up and my parents were like, you know, hey, why don't you play a little stump, you know, and I go, no. No, I don't do that. Sorry.
Yeah.
So when was the first song that made it to the next level for you, and kind of, you know, bridge the way to your musical career, so to speak?
So, you know, I'm into my fourth album at the moment. So I've been doing it for a while. And the first song that really started getting movement was a song called Before I Go. And it was more of a contemporary rock country song, which did pretty good. Went to number one on a bunch of independent charts in Australia. And when it got into the commercial charts, that's where I started to really see the ball rolling. You know, up until now, we've had 12 number one songs in Australia, which is a pretty cool thing to be, you know, to say that I've had. And, you know, also kind of moving into that, I got nominated for a CMAA award, which is a Golden Guitar back home, equivalent to winning a American Music Award or a Country Music Award over here. Mm-hmm. That was a really big moment for me too. Just getting the nomination was really cool.
Oh, sure.
So yeah. I think that's when I started to see kind of, you know, the wheels kind of turning a little bit. But for me too, I look at my career like I always try and step out of myself and look in and go, why did you start this in the first place? Because, you know, you can really get caught up in it. And it's one of the industries where that'll bring you down in a heartbeat if you're not watching it, if you're not careful. So you need to really be mindful of why you're doing it, why you started, and the love of the music and the love of performing. That's the most important thing. Don't ever want to lose that, because I think if I do, I'll probably want to do something else.
When I talk to people, especially if they've been doing it for a long time, or even if they're starting out, it's a disease we get. You get it when you're young, you get tapped, okay, ting, music. And it doesn't matter the genre. You could be a trumpet player in a band. You could be a, you know, symphony player. It's just in your brain. It's in your blood, so to speak.
For sure.
And there's a point there, I always think, that we all know when you're standing in front of people performing, that's what it's all about. And if that people are enjoying what you're doing, and you have a union between them and you, that's why you're there. I mean, that's why you're there. And you're like, I live on a golf course, and I used to play golf all the time. And I never was great at it. I was okay. And I started okay, and then in the middle I'd suck. And then at the end I'd go, I'm going to never play again. And then I'd par, hoe, or birdie something. I'm going, okay, I'll be back. So it's almost like that. You play a lot of gigs that are kind of marginal, and then one time you play something, everybody goes, oh, yeah, I like that. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be back doing what I'm doing. Yes. And the other part about it is, I think for most people, is it's a business. You know, that'll eat your lunch, because you get, I mean, you obviously have an agent. So
yeah,
I'm sure that they're standing there close to you or close by. But the bottom line is, it's almost weird in a way that you have to get so good that you can afford people to do everything else that you have to do before when you got started.
True. I totally agree with that. I think the industry itself is, it's a very exciting place to be a lot of the times, but it's also a very stressful place as well. As an independent artist, when you're self-funding all your projects, that can be stressful. And, when you're going out playing 100 shows a year and all that money's going into recording an album,
Yeah.
you got to try and find the balance between it all. And I think the most important thing is to really love the music and really love what you do, because the second that you lose that is when it starts to become a job that you just enjoy, and you don't get paid that much for. So it's like,
Well, and I look at the other side of it, Andy. I look at people like the Rolling Stones. Why do they still tour at 80 years old? They don't need the money. Eric Clapton doesn't need the money.
Yes.
I mean, there are a lot of them that have been doing it for years. Eric said one time that he'll die playing someplace because that's every day. I'm going, see you, honey, I'm leaving. I got to get a gig. But it is still, and I understand to a certain extent, I'm talking about Stones or Clapton, anybody of that ilk, people screaming your name, thousands of people, probably never gets old. I mean, it's like you walk on the stage, they go, that probably never gets old. But then there are times you're like, where are we this week? I mean, what are we doing today? I've been following, just kind of real quick, I've been following Ron Wood with the Stones. I follow him on Instagram. And their last gig is tonight or maybe it's last night, in San Francisco. Their American tour is over now. And he would, every stop they made, he would talk to the people and talk about the city and all that, and I thought that was kind of cool. But then it's probably like, where are we going now? Because they're going somewhere else, like Europe or, maybe they're Australia. Who knows?
Yeah.
So as far as you're concerned, and I really believe this too, a lot of people are indie artists because it's easier now. I mean, you came into the business when things started changing, obviously. You're talking about your grandfather's records. The record. I don't even have to ask you. I'm sure they're 33s. I'm sure I mean, he probably didn't have, or maybe even have some CDs, but he's old enough. Probably they're all albums. And you have to do what you do to make a living. You can't go out, and it's really kind of weird too, because the fact is you go record an album, you work on your fourth. It's not like the old days where you go, okay, I'm working on it. I'm going to sell a bunch of these. People are going to buy it. They're going to download it, whatever they're going to do, and then I'm going to go out and support it. Now it's the other way around.
True.
I got to get it out so people can hear it. But if I'm not out performing and getting paid with that or merch, I ain't living. So
this is true. Yeah, you've got to be able to support yourself, and I think it's really important to have a good team. But if you really want something, you'll get it. For example, I still make money from selling physical copies, and a lot of people are saying, that part of the industry is dead, but it's only dead if it's dead to you. If you get out there and you promote your product and you talk to your fans about it, and you may not be selling hundreds of millions of copies, but if you're an independent artist and that's your focus, then I think it's really important to get out there and push it. You got to find the balance between all this new technology and new streaming platforms or whatever else is happening with the old stuff and doing the gigs. You need to have your fingers in every single pie, really. As an indie.
And it makes it more. It's more difficult, I think. I met a couple of years ago. I met with they came into town. There was some. I think the ACM Awards or something were here in the Dallas area, and they called me. And it was one of the biggest record labels in Nashville, and one of the biggest PR firms. They wanted to meet with me. Been in the business a long time, and I said, "What's it like now?" They were probably in their 50s, and I said, "What's it like now compared to what is when you guys started?" They go, "It's harder now." Now, you'd think it'd be easier, but he said, I think it's because so many people release music on their own that it's difficult to sift through all that, just like you. I mean, it's difficult for people to sift through it. And if you look at indie artists, and now it's interesting because I always thought indie was different. And I've interviewed like 3 indie artists in the last 3 weeks. And all 3 of them, just like you, they're all playing different music. It's all different kind of styles. So when you have to go out, and this is something I think people don't understand, you make your own way. I mean, in the old days, you convinced an AR person, let's say, hey, look, sign me to a record deal. they'll help, pay for it. And of course, if you don't really sell enough to pay them back, advances. Yeah.
That's the thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
It's
you're under the control of them all the time, whereas you set your own, you go to your own beat, your own drum, so to speak.
It's true that that's the most important thing about being in indie. You can still do what you want, but like you said, the industry is absolutely clouded by a lot of different music. So to be able to get seen through all of that is really the challenge. But I also think the most important thing these days in this industry is you can't please every single person that you perform. There's so many artists out there, and not everyone's going to love what you do. So if you're true to who you are and you build your own fan base, a strong fan base that are going to follow you around and spend their hard-earned dollars on your product over the course of your career, then I think that to me is a successful independent artist.
And it's the same though. What it was, starting out years ago, it was the same way. You build up your fan base.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, you start small, and then hopefully get better at it, and then more people follow you, and then you're in whatever you're in, whether it's the county or parish in Louisiana, or wherever. And then you go bigger and then travel to other states or different territories, and then you're building up your fan base. But like you, it's interesting to me too, because the fact that here you are based out of Australia, and then you said, okay, I'm going to go to Canada. It's easier for me to travel, blah, blah, blah. But still, that's a lot of work. And so why did you come? I never asked. Why are you here in Dallas?
So, well, we're getting ready for the Texas Sound Festival, International Festival, which is coming up.
That's not till October or whatever.
Not until October. So we're planning a couple of seeds, a few radio interviews with yourself, obviously, and some media stuff. And I'm actually on my way back home to Australia. So I've been in Canada for 6 months, and we're heading home tomorrow. So I'm home for a national tour. So we're doing 13 shows, some of which we've sold out, which I'm really excited about. And then we're heading back to Canada. I'm doing 2 big festivals in Canada in September, and then back to Texas. So you just get used to traveling at this point, which is great. I love traveling. I love being away. I love being at home with my family, but I feel like a bit of a lost soul anyway. That's why I think musicians are troubled. A lot of musicians are troubled souls. So for me to experience different things gives me something to tell, something to write about. It gives me a story to tell. So every single thing that I do and see when I'm on the road is something that could end up in a song. So
and a lot of people probably don't realize, when you travel in America, you can make a lot of stops from the East Coast to West Coast.
For sure, yeah.
It's not like that in Australia.
No.
You got the east side, and then you got Perth. It's a long ways away from each other. So when you're on tour, it's like, okay, we got to go here, and then we got to go 3,000 miles on the other side of the country. It'd be like people saying, I'm going to play New York and Boston, and then I'm going to go play L.A. and Seattle. What about all the places in between? There isn't anything in between.
There's nothing there. You're right. Yeah, it's just all dirt and dust. But it's a funny. You get, as an artist in Australia, you get used to traveling. Driving 10 hours to play a show is nothing for me. You don't even blink an eyelid. So you're used to it. And flying doesn't bother me because, it takes 6 hours to fly from Sydney to Perth. So
people don't realize that either. It's like people think, hey, look, isn't New Zealand like 30 minutes away? No. They look at the map because it's like they don't have any context of what it's doing. So let's talk about your music. Let's talk about your albums.
Cool.
When was the first album released? What year was that?
So the first one was released in 2017, but it took me probably 10 years to record it. I recorded an album previous to that, would have been about 2012, which sat on a shelf for a very long time, didn't really do anything with, just wasn't quite there with it. And I pulled a lot of those songs out and put them in this 2017 album, which is called Sad Love Songs. Mm-hmm. And it was really, for me, I wanted to record a full body of music that I could leave behind, something that I could say, well, I've actually recorded a full body of music. And that was my main goal for the album. But it started to, when we recorded it, started to get a bit of momentum on Australian country radio, which was really cool. We got, a bunch of songs getting played. We ended up getting a number 2 song on that album. And I felt like it was just meant to be. So I felt like this was the journey that I needed to get back onto. I actually took a bit of time off. I studied music in early 20s, and then I took a little bit of time off, and it just kept biting me in the butt. So I had to jump back on the bandwagon and start writing music. And that was when I wrote this little EP called Chasing the Sun, which is a little more of an alternative kind of style EP, which I really wanted to do as well because it was so different. It was something that I just wanted to create. It was more about the creation than anything else. And here we are now. We're into the fourth commercial album, which I recorded in Canada. So the whole album is actually CanCon. So meaning that it's produced by a Canadian. All the songs are co-written with Canadians. All the media, marketing, all that kind of stuff was all done in Canada, which was really important for me because it just added a different flavor to the music and to the sound that I was doing back home. And, the next album could be an American album. I just really want to put I want to spread my wings and experience different producers and different sounds. That's really important for me.
Tell me what you've learned between your first and your fourth.
Oh, how long is this interview? I've learned it's not all what it cracks up. It's hard work. I've also learned that the more success you have, the more that people want to kind of hone in and bring you down. I've noticed that a lot.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the tall poppy syndrome. But I also feel like I've learned a lot about myself as a human and as a songwriter. I think I really understand my style of music better. I understand what I'm capable of doing and what I'm capable of delivering. I also understand, and I've learned that I'm not even there. I'm not there yet. I still need some time to really get to that point that I need to be at, and that could take a couple more years. So that's exciting to me because it's the journey too. That's what I've learned. It's really not the end result, which everyone wants this number 1 song on American country radio and everyone wants to be famous and all that stuff. Yeah. But you forget about the journey along the way. You forget about the people you meet. You forget about the lives you've touched, the hands you've shaken, all those things you forget about. So that I'm really, really mindful of moving forward and moving into my career is to really enjoy every moment.
Yeah, and don't you have to, I think, as a producer and songwriter myself, you think the one you're doing is the best you can do, and then you do the next one and you're like, okay, it's better than the last one. And then you hope sometimes you get to the point, and I think I am with this, my music is, there's nuances about it now. Mm-hmm. I went last year, I decided to go away from singing to go only instrumental.
Love that.
Because I'm a guitar player.
Yep.
And for 2 reasons. One, I'm older now. I can't sing like I used to. I can still write a great rock song, but I don't have the vocals to it. And secondly, people don't care what you look like when you're an instrumentalist.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sure. So you can tell Kenny G that. I'm sure he.
Well, I mean, blowing it out of the side of his mouth all the time, But
Sure.
But here's the other thing too. I think you get better at it, and I still get excited. It's almost like, and you know this from being in the studio, it's work, but when you're done, you look at it and go, man, that came from me. Just out of the, nobody knows where all this stuff comes from. It's just like we grab it out of the air and then you write it and you're like, and then people, it's interesting what you said. People don't want you to be successful. I've never understood that. I understand they're jealous. I understand that. But the other side of it is it's a gift. If you're given the ability to do what you do, you have to work at it.
I agree.
But it's a gift. So you could be taken away anytime, and so you went to Canada to record this, and then you go back. Will you then support it? You got several months here, or you got next year and all that stuff.
Yep.
Are you going to support it because it's in Canada? You said you're going to tour Canada too. Did I understand that right?
Yeah. So the album's been released, so we did really well. We had 2 weeks in the ARIA charts. We debuted at number 2. So we had, which is really great. Like that's the Billboard charts equivalents
Sure.
to you, which is really cool. So that's an exciting thing for me. This is my second album to be in the Australian ARIA charts. So going home now to present the songs live to the audience is really exciting for me. I also feel like there's an element of, it's going to feel different getting home playing them because I've been over here releasing and talking to Canadian media and a lot of American media. So it's a different vibe back home. So, we're going to take the songs back home. But even, for me too, even if not every single project's going to be successful too. So, I look at the album as like I said, it's part of the journey and it's meant to be. Was meant to be in that place at that time recording with these people. And I feel like I've made some amazing friends and connections throughout the world because of this album. It's been a 2.5-year project to get it to this point. So we're still riding the wave off the back of the album. So I'm looking forward to getting home and playing it.
Couple of questions in regards to promoting yourself. Easier in Australia or Canada? I won't even talk about America yet, but I mean, which one is it? I mean, you're a native son, but is it easier, you think, to promote it in another country? In other words, it's the old saying, you're never a prophet in your own land. But you've already done well in Australia. Have you found the difference?
It took a long time to get noticed in Australia. I actually feel like, to be honest, like the Australian music industry, the country music industry is really tough because it's a very small market over there. And you've got thousands of people that all want that spot. So a lot of artists don't want to lose their turf in Australia. So they will fight tooth and nail to keep their turf.
Right.
So I've had to really work hard to get seen in Australia. It's taken me a good 10 years to be able to get to that point.
Wow.
Canada has been a little bit different because I went over there with a bigger budget. We had a bigger marketing budget. So we're working with, a lot more media people. So I was actually able to secure some amazing interviews on some big television stations like Rogers TV and lots of, daytime television interviews. And we also did a lot of radio stuff whilst I was there. And I'm feeling like they've really embraced my style as well. They're really enjoying it. I'm booking some really big festivals now within the first 6 months, which is really exciting. So, I think I've taken a lot of what I've learned in Australia, me and my team, and we've implemented that into the Canadian market, but left the doors open so that we can move around a little bit when we need to or when we see fit.
Let's talk about your situation coming up in October for the Texas Sound Things. Were you found or did you find them?
We were found. I think, it's I've had so much success back home. So I think that's kind of really opened up their eyes to kind of what I was doing. And it's nice to have that, success and to people outside of the country to notice it. And we actually applied for the festival though, but the second we applied though, they wanted me straight away, which was great. We literally got a reply within the hour or two, which was really cool. So, but I've known Preston for a while, so we kind of connected a fair bit. So he knows what I'm capable of doing. So I can't wait to get over and do it, to be honest. I'm the kind of artist that would not turn down a gig. I'm not fussy when it comes to performing because I love it so much. If someone said, come over my house, we've got 4 people and going to play a show, I'd say, yeah, sign me up.
Yeah.
Someone says, come and do a festival of 2,000 people. I feel like for me, it's really about the music and connection. And that's the festival in itself is going to be I know a lot of the artists already, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll probably have a bit of fun, and I think the audience too. I'm bringing my family over, which is I'm really excited about. My folks are going to come and watch this one, which that excites me too because I know that they're going to have a great time and meet all these great artists. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, it's kind of like coming to the Holy Land to a certain extent. As a Texas native, we kind of go, oh yeah, okay, whatever. But when you start, it's like me. If you said, I don't know if there's any place I'd go, and as far as music, it's like, okay. I mean, I did go to Muscle shows and record. That was kind of a big deal, but I don't have any desire. It's like, okay, I think if people ask me where I'd want to play anywhere in the world, I would want to perform at the Royal Albert Hall in London. That would be the biggest thing I could. I mean, people talk about Madison Square, all these places in America. That to me, if you could play there and people are listening to you, that's it. You're done.
I tend to agree. I think it's a good one. For me, it's the Opera House in Australia.
That one. That one would be good too.
Yeah.
Because it's so iconic. People go there and look where I'm playing, and they stand in front. Everybody knows that picture.
Yeah, exactly. And all the greats have stood there, you know. But yeah, I mean, you guys are spoiled here in Texas. It's you know, the cool thing about Texas and what I really love about it is the genre is not. It's so wide. You know, you guys love all different styles of alternative country music, all that kind of stuff. Nashville's a little bit. It's a little bit different because if you're not necessarily that Nashville sounding artist, it's a little bit tougher to kind of break it over there. It took Keith 10 years to break that market. This young kid from Australia, amazing guitarist, was kind of trying to break boundaries with this contemporary poppy rock stuff, which they didn't really understand at the time. Now everyone wants to sound like Keith. So it takes a lot of time to break into a market.
It's funny, isn't it? You know, it really is funny. You take, people say, you know, overnight success. Yeah, 10 years later.
And that was just in America, you know, like he's been doing it since he was, you know, 12 years old.
Well, and then you see, and I think this is for everybody, well, not everybody, the one percenter, so to speak. Then the ball starts rolling and it's like, now he's on American Idol. He's here, he's there. He marries a famous star, and you're like, okay, what else can he do? You know?
Yeah. Exactly.
And then he starts performing with great guitarists, and he's like, you know, obviously he's a telly guy. And then it's like, wait a minute, I know he's that good a guitarist, you know. And then you start playing, and you're like, oh, okay. But it took him years to get there.
For sure.
And just like you, I think the dudes, I just have always been a believer. I know we live in, I was talking to an artist the other day, and we were talking about A&R people. And they said they've gotten so their opinion was, they got so lazy, they just watch TikTok. You know, and they go, that's it. We'll just do that. I don't have to go out and talk to them. We'll just sign them up and be done.
For sure. Yeah.
But I think that what you do is more important, because I've never been A&R people are just people. So you never know what they're looking for. You can't figure it out sometimes. And so I always said I'd sell my soul only if I knew what I had to sell my soul for.
Yes.
Now, just throwing yourself out there and saying, can you sell your? No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is your A&R people are out in front when they hear you perform. That's your people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what you're selling. You're selling your connection. You're selling your product face to face rather than through a screen. I think it's really important to me too. You know, it's something that I'll definitely keep doing.
Well, so what is it you want to get out of being in America? Obviously, you're coming back and going to go start doing your thing.
Yes.
Do you have dreams or thoughts of a major label picking you up?
Obviously, that's something that kind of, you know, runs around your head every now and again. You kind of think that'd be cool because it'd be a lot easier to have someone, you know, driving the car for you. But I also think that there's my idea of success is to really build a career based on my songwriting and my connection, like I was saying before. You know, when you get with a big label, there's often they all want to change what you're doing. They want to mold you into something that maybe you're not quite that person. So I need to stay I think that's the most important thing for me. I don't want to change that. And hopefully, you know, we can get the wheels moving and I can still be at the helm of it all, you know, like in be in control of it, but have someone, you know, push you to the next level. But having said that, if that doesn't happen, the most important thing for me is to get out and play music. So if I'm still playing music in a little divey bar in
still playing
Dallas, I'm still playing. And, you know, you've got 3 or 4 fans that come and they watch and they enjoy and they want to talk to you afterwards and they want to be part of your journey. Then for me, that's a win.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Lift off. Lift off.
when I'm scrolling. Keep Thurban on Victrola, Oakleys and Coronas. Not thinking about you. Then I came across your photo in Fendi and Manolo, dancing in Barbados out with somebody new. You're working hard at moving on. Well, I'm kicking it on my front lawn. You're white hot nights and I'm a cool afternoon, chasing disco lights while I'm waiting on the moon. We're under the same sun, but it's a different kind of free, 'cause the shine's on you, but the shade, yeah, the shade's on me. You know I ain't stressing, ain't no second guessing, knee deep in my best life, out here on my own. You're working hard at moving on. My living's easy now that you're gone. You're white hot nights and I'm a cool afternoon, chasing disco lights while I'm waiting on the moon. We're under the same sun, but it's a different kind of free, 'cause the shine's on you, but the shade, yeah, the shade's on me. I guess that's why it didn't work out. Just look at what we're doing right now. You're white hot nights and I'm a cool afternoon, chasing disco lights while I'm waiting on the moon. We're under the same sun, but it's a different kind of free, 'cause the shine's on you and the shade, yeah, the shade. Yeah, you're white hot nights and I'm a cool afternoon. You're chasing disco lights while I'm waiting on the moon. We're under the same sun, but it's a different kind of free, 'cause the shine's on you, but the shade, yeah, the shade's on me. Shades on me.
Well, that's it for this episode of The Trot Show. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this special episode with Andy from Down Under. If you want to know more about him and follow his career, you can go to his website at Andy Penkow, ANDYPENKOW.com. He'll be back in America soon, and I think we'll find out that he's going to be a big star. Well, at least I hope so, in America. For more information about The Trot Show, you know what you need to do. Always go to the website, get all the information about the podcast, YouTube videos, and anything else I got going on. And that would be thetroutshow.com. Everything is right there. So until next time, people, you know what I always say. It's only rock and roll. But I love it. See ya.